Imagine finding out that after everything, after years of supporting your parents, bailing them out, doing the work your golden child sister never did, they left you out of the will. Not just overlooked. Erased. And a month later, your dad has the audacity to text you, the mortgage needs to be paid. Like you're still on the hook. That was the moment I changed everything. I've been the responsible one for as long as I can remember. I'm 33 now. No wife, no kids. I live in a modest one-bedroom apartment outside Des Moines, work as an accountant for a mid-sized construction company, and keep to myself. My days are routine: coffee, work, a walk after dinner if my leg isn't acting up. It's not glamorous, but it's stable. And for my family, that stability meant I became their safety net. My sister Lindsay is 30. She lives like an Instagram model with a trust fund, which is funny, because she doesn't have one. At least not yet. She's got the fake nails, the trips to Dubai, the sponsored products from sketchy brands. She's posted 6 different career changes in the last 2 years, and none of them lasted longer than a few months. But she's the golden child. Always has been. Growing up, if Lindsay forgot her homework, the teacher was unreasonable. If I forgot mine, I was lazy. If she wrecked Dad's car at 17, it was just a mistake. If I scratched the bumper parallel parking, it was irresponsible behavior. It's not that I was unloved, I just wasn't seen. After college, when I got my first full-time job, I started helping out. Little things at first. Covered the cable bill when Dad was between jobs. Paid for a new washer when the old one broke. When Mom needed dental surgery, I picked up the difference after insurance. They always said thank you, but not once did they offer to pay me back. It just became expected. Lindsay never helped with anything. But they made excuses for her. She's just finding her way. She's not good with money. She'll get there. And I believed them. I thought maybe one day she'll grow out of it. That was 4 years ago. Since then, I've covered over $25,000 in emergencies. Car repairs, medical bills, home insurance hikes. Meanwhile, Lindsay got a new iPhone every year, went on yoga retreats, and posted things like, "Self-care isn't selfish nail polish," while I put off my own doctor visits to send money home. Still, I didn't say anything. I figured I was doing the right thing. Until I got sick. I'll get into that more later, but basically, I started developing chronic nerve pain in my right leg. Some days I can barely stand for long periods. The meds help, but they mess with my energy levels and focus. I cut my work hours, hoping to manage things better. I told my parents what was going on. I said, "I need to slow down for a while. Things are tight." They said, "We understand." Then 3 days later, they asked if I could help cover a plumbing bill. No follow-up about my health. No. "How are you doing?" Just a bill. I paid it. But I started feeling different after that. Like something inside me had shifted. I still went through the motions, but I felt hollow. Used. I told myself I was being dramatic. Then, over Thanksgiving, I found out the truth. Thanksgiving wasn't supposed to be dramatic. It was just me, Mom, Dad, and Lindsay, small dinner at their place. I almost didn't go because of the nerve pain, but I figured I'd push through for a couple of hours. I even brought a store-bought pumpkin pie to feel like I contributed something other than awkward silence. Dinner was fine, in that fake happy way families do. Dad asked about work, I gave vague answers. Lindsay spent most of the meal on her phone, bragging about some digital marketing opportunity. That sounded like an MLM. She mentioned she might launch a lifestyle brand next year. No one questioned it. After dinner, Dad asked me to help him fix the printer in the office. It was jammed, which wasn't new. Their home office is a mess of old cables, expired antivirus trials, and paper they'll never use. While I was poking around on his computer, trying to reinstall a driver, I noticed a file on the desktop titled Will Final. I didn't mean to open it. I swear on everything I didn't. But the mouse hovered too long. One twitch, and it launched in Word. I froze. It was dated 3 months ago. I didn't read every line, but I didn't have to. It was crystal clear. The house, the savings account, the retirement fund, even Dad's truck, all to Lindsay. My name appeared once, under a line that said, "Informative arrangements, no inheritance designated at this time." That was it. Nothing about how I'd kept them afloat for years. Nothing about the medical bills I'd covered, the housework I did, the holidays I skipped because I couldn't afford gas. I closed the file. Didn't say a word. My hands were shaking as I finished fixing the printer. I walked back out to the living room where Lindsay was showing Mom pictures of a new apartment she wanted to lease, on the beach. Dad just nodded like he was proud of her. I made some excuse about needing to head home early. Said I was tired. They didn't press it. On the drive back, I didn't even play music. Just silence. My mind replaying every time I thought, maybe they'll see what I've done someday. They saw. They just didn't care. They didn't forget me. They excluded me. I didn't sleep that night. Barely blinked. I kept going over it again and again. What I saw in the will, how casual they were, how everything I did was apparently invisible. The next day, I called my mom. I didn't plan it, I just did it because I knew if I didn't ask now, I'd let it fester. "Hey, Mom," I said. "Can I ask you something kind of serious?" "Sure," she said, cheerful like nothing had happened. "I saw the will on Dad's computer last night. The one dated September." Dead silence. "Oh," she finally said. "You opened that?" "Not on purpose. But yeah. I saw it. I need to ask why I'm not in it. At all." Long pause. Then she sighed. "Well, Evan, we just thought, you don't need anything." I was stunned. "What does that mean? You've always been the stable one. You don't make waves. You have a good head on your shoulders. Mom, I've paid thousands of dollars to help you guys. While dealing with chronic pain. Lindsay hasn't paid for her own phone bill in 10 years. She's had a harder time than you." "How?" I snapped. "How has she had it harder?" "She's sensitive," she said, like that explained everything. I didn't even know what to say. I hung up. I didn't call back that day. Or the next. I wanted to yell, throw something, do anything other than feel what I was feeling. But mostly, I just sat with it. And here's the part that really stuck with me. Not once did she say, "We'll talk about this," or "Let's fix this." She said, "You don't need anything. Like love. Or respect. Or basic fairness. Those are for people who throw tantrums, not the kid who gets things done without asking for credit." I didn't tell anyone for a week. Not my friends. Not my therapist. I just went to work, came home, took my pills, and tried not to think about how I'd been discarded like a tool they didn't need anymore. I wanted to pretend it didn't bother me. But it did. It crushed me. A week after that call with my mom, I did something I should have done years ago. I stopped. Stopped answering their calls. Stopped replying to texts. Stopped sending money. I didn't make a big announcement. I just stopped playing the part they wrote for me without asking. The first couple days were quiet. Then, the texts started. "Mom. Hey honey, the water bill came and it's higher than usual. Can you cover it this month?" No mention of the call. No apology. No acknowledgement. I didn't answer. Then came the kicker. A single message from my dad, no greeting, no pleasantries. "Dad, the mortgage needs to be paid." That was it. Not, "How are you feeling?" Not, "We appreciate everything you've done." Just a statement. Like I was their bank. Like they were checking in on an overdue invoice. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied, "Not my house. Not my problem. Ask Lindsay." I blocked the number after that. It felt like ripping out a splinter I'd been living with so long I forgot it was there. The next day, I found out Lindsay had posted something on Instagram. A sad selfie, no makeup, dramatic lighting, captioned, Trying to stay strong when your own brother turns his back on family broken heart. I wouldn't have known if a coworker hadn't shown me. Apparently it was one of those public posts meant to make people feel bad without giving any context. I didn't comment. I didn't message her. But I wasn't the only one who saw it. My aunt texted me later that night. "And Karen, what's going on with your sister's post? Your mom says you're ignoring them. Are you okay?" For the first time, I told the truth. I laid it out. Not emotionally. Just facts. Years of financial help. The will. The phone call. The text about the mortgage. Her response? Silence for a few minutes. Then, "And Karen, I'm so sorry, Evan. I had no idea." She wasn't the only one. Over the next few days, I started getting more messages from people in the family. Quiet ones. Small. Supportive. Apparently, this wasn't the first time Lindsay had manipulated the narrative to make herself look like the victim. But this time, I had the receipts. And I was done being quiet. I didn't post to be petty. I posted because I was sick of being lied about. Lindsay kept making vague emotional posts. Family should show up, not disappear. And, "You never know who will betray you, broken heart." Every one of them was aimed at me, and her followers ate it up. People I hadn't spoken to in years started messaging me. A girl I barely knew from high school even DM'd me to say, "You should be ashamed. Family is everything." That's when I realized I needed to set the record straight. So I wrote a Reddit post. Not here, but on one of those subreddits where people talk about messed up family dynamics. I laid out the entire timeline. How I'd paid bills for years without complaint. How I told them I was sick and they still asked for money. How I found out I was cut out of the will, on accident. How I stopped helping, and how my dad sent that cold message about the mortgage. How Lindsay tried to twist it into her being the victim. I included redacted screenshots, nothing identifying, but enough to prove I wasn't making it up. It blew up overnight. The post got over 30,000 upvotes and hundreds of comments from people who'd been through the same thing. People were furious on my behalf. A few even recognized the Instagram post from Lindsay and started putting two and two together. I didn't respond to the comments. Just read them. Quietly. Alone. I hadn't realized how badly I needed to hear anyone say, "You're not wrong." That weekend, Lindsay finally called me. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking with anger. "You're turning people against me. This is beyond toxic. You're bitter, Evan. Just admit it." Then she hung up. No apology. No accountability. Just rage that her version of the story wasn't the only one anymore. The next day, I got a text from my mom. "Mom, I don't understand why you're doing this to your sister." I didn't reply. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't doing anything to anyone. I was just telling the truth. And apparently the truth was enough to shake the whole foundation they'd built. It had been quiet for almost a week after my Reddit posts went viral and Lindsay started pulling back from social media. I thought maybe, just maybe, things were calming down. Then I got a phone call that threw everything into chaos again. It was a number I didn't recognize. I normally don't pick up, but something told me to this time. "Mr. Evan R.?" a man asked. "Speaking. This is Sean Dwyer, calling on behalf of Asset First Financial Recovery. We've been trying to reach your father regarding an outstanding balance tied to the property at my parents' address." I stood up from my desk, heart pounding. What kind of balance? Approximately $43,000 in unpaid personal loans and credit lines attached to the home equity. I sat back down, trying to make sense of it. That house should be paid off. According to our records, the equity was drawn against 3 separate times in the last year. "Do you have power of attorney or legal access to discuss this?" I didn't. And I told him so. But I asked a question I wasn't even sure I wanted answered. Were those loans issued in my father's name? Pause. "No," he said. "They're in Ms. Lindsay R's name. She's listed as the co-owner of the home. I ended the call and sat there in stunned silence. She'd gotten herself on the deed. And she was bleeding the house dry behind their backs. That night, I drove to my parents' house. I didn't tell them I was coming. I rang the doorbell until my mom opened it in a robe, shocked to see me. "We need to talk," I said. Dad came in, tense. "What's this about now?" I told them about the debt collector. The moment I said the number, 43,000, Mom dropped onto the armrest like her legs gave out. Dad didn't say a word. Just stared at me with a look that wasn't confusion or denial. It was fear. They had no idea. Lindsay had added herself to the deed during one of their help with paperwork sessions earlier in the year. Dad had signed forms without reading them, assuming she was just updating their home insurance. She'd used the ownership to take out cash 3 times. And it wasn't to help them. It was for a business investment. A luxury wellness pop-up in Miami that never actually launched. I found a pitch deck in her public Google Drive folder. It had phrases like immersive healing experiences and crystal bar. No substance. Just vibes. My parents were panicking. I watched it hit them in real time, how deep they'd let her in. How blind they'd been. She said she'd take care of us. My mom whispered. "You gave her everything," I said. "And this is what she did with it." No one spoke for a long time. Then Dad asked quietly, "Can you help us fix it?" I laughed. Out loud. "No. You can ask the co-owner." After I left my parents' house that night, I blocked their numbers. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. I thought that might be the end of it for a while. But 2 days later, I got a call from my uncle, my mom's older brother Tom. We haven't talked much in recent years, but he's one of the few relatives who's always been blunt in a way I respect. "You finally cut the cord," he said. "Pretty much." "Good," he replied. "I've been waiting for you to." That surprised me. Turns out, Tom had tried to warn my parents about Lindsay years ago. Said she was manipulative, reckless, and treated money like monopoly cash. They stopped inviting him to family functions after he suggested Lindsay pay rent when she moved back and briefly at age 27. They didn't want the truth, he said. They wanted to believe in the version of her they'd built in their heads. He told me something else, too. Lindsay had recently tried to borrow money from him. She called it a bridge loan to stabilize the family estate. He didn't give her a cent. Instead, he filed a report with the city's Elder Affairs office and flagged the situation as potential financial exploitation. That blew things open. 2 days later, my mom texted me from a different number. It was short. "We had visitors today. This is your fault." Then a follow-up. "Lindsay is gone. She took her things and left a note. She's not answering." I didn't reply. But I found the note anyway, because she posted a photo of it, folded in her passport, on her backup Instagram account that someone sent me. It said, "You never appreciated me. I was the only one with ambition. I only did what you let me do. If you end up losing the house, that's on you. Not me. I'm starting over. Don't try to find me." Comments were turned off. The next day, I drove past the house. The grass was overgrown. A big yellow tag was stuck on the door, some kind of city inspection notice. I didn't knock. I didn't go in. But I saw my dad through the front window. Sitting alone at the kitchen table, head in his hands. Like a man whose entire belief system had just imploded. It should have made me feel something. But all I felt was peace. It had been about a month since Lindsay vanished. No calls. No texts. No dramatic Instagram stories. She just disappeared, like she'd been vaporized from our lives. I don't know if she left the country, changed her name, or just moved into someone else's couch for a while. Honestly, I didn't care. My parents were still living in the house, for now. The debt collectors hadn't fully taken over yet, but they were circling. I saw foreclosure notices in the mail on one of my drives by. Uncle Tom kept me in the loop. He'd stepped in where I wouldn't anymore, helped my dad file fraud reports, walked them through damage control, and sat in on a meeting with a financial advisor. None of that was for my benefit. It was for closure. For dignity. He told them flat out not to ask me for help again. I respected that. I hadn't talked to them since my mom's last passive-aggressive text. Instead, I focused on myself. I started physical therapy again. Got a better doctor. Adjusted my medication. Took time off work and used it to start a small project I'd been putting off for years, an online budgeting course for young adults. I posted the first video under a throwaway account. Just basic stuff: how to track your expenses, how credit really works, what compound interest is. The kind of things Lindsay would have laughed at. It blew up. Hundreds of messages from people who said they never learned this stuff growing up. One woman said she cried watching the Budgeting for Caregivers video because no one had ever explained how to protect yourself from financially abusive family. It hit me hard. That video was about me. About them. For the first time in a long time, I felt useful without being used. One morning, I got an email from a guy named Kevin. He worked for a nonprofit focused on financial literacy in low-income schools. He asked if I'd be open to collaborating on a live workshop. It felt surreal, being asked for something that wasn't about money. That wasn't a guilt trip. That didn't end with a bill. I said yes. That same week, my therapist asked if I felt angry anymore. No, I said. I feel free. She nodded. Freedom's heavy at first. But it gets lighter. She was right. I wasn't healed. But I was healing. And I was doing it without needing to prove anything to anyone anymore. I'd started checking my mailbox regularly again. For a while I avoided it. Too many bills, too many bad memories. But lately it had become normal. Peaceful, even. Until the day I opened it and found a thick, yellow envelope. No return address, just my name written in sharp black ink. Inside was a handwritten letter. From my mom. Not an email. Not a text. A real letter. 8 pages. She started by saying she didn't expect me to read the whole thing, and she wouldn't blame me if I threw it away. She didn't defend herself. Didn't ask for money. Instead, she wrote about things I never thought she noticed. She remembered the night I stayed up all night in high school fixing the router so Dad could check his fantasy football league. How I walked home in the rain after our first big fight because I didn't want to yell in front of Lindsay. How I brought soup every day when she had bronchitis the winter Dad was out of town. She said she saw it all? And chose not to say anything. I let your sister take and take because it was easier than facing who she really was, she wrote. And it was easier to count on you than to admit how fragile we were. But that wasn't love. That was cowardice. And I'm sorry. She ended with this. Your father won't say it, but he knows he failed you. We both did. If you never speak to us again, I'll understand. But if one day you have a child who gives and gives the way you did, I hope you'll remember this letter and know you were never the problem. We were. I sat at my kitchen table and read it 3 times. I didn't cry. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. But also, strangely, calm. This wasn't closure, not really. It didn't undo years of silence, or fix the fact that I had to burn the bridge to save myself. But it was the first real thing either of them had said to me in years. No manipulation. No guilt. Just truth. Later that night, I scanned the letter and saved a copy in a folder labeled Proof I'm Not Crazy. I didn't call. I didn't write back. But I didn't throw it away either. A week after I got my mom's letter, I thought maybe, just maybe, the worst was behind me. Then I got an email from my bank. Subject line: Unusual activity detected on linked account. I don't have any joint accounts. Haven't for years. But when I logged in, I saw something that didn't make sense, an old savings account I opened with my dad when I was 19. It had sat dormant for a decade with a few $100 in it. I'd completely forgotten it existed. Until now. because someone had tried to transfer $3,000 from it. I called the bank immediately. They confirmed the request was made online, using old login credentials linked to my dad's name. The transfer was flagged because it was set to a new routing number, and the email on file had been changed just days before. "Can you confirm if this is a valid transaction?" the rep asked. "It absolutely isn't." They froze the account and opened an investigation. I filed a fraud report and asked them to send me the logs. Later that night, I called Uncle Tom and told him everything. He didn't sound surprised. "Your dad's drowning," he said. "He's too proud to say it, but the bank's been calling daily. They're trying to stay in the house, but they're out of time. And stealing from me is the plan? Evan. I think it was Lindsay." My heart dropped. "What?" "She's back. Quietly. I found out through a neighbor. She showed up 2 nights ago, stayed long enough to grab her old laptop and a few things from the garage. I think she got into the house computer." That's when I remembered the login info for that old account was saved in Dad's browser. I'd set it up for him forever ago when he didn't know how to access online banking. They never changed it. Lindsay didn't even need to hack me. She just logged in. I sat in silence, trying to process it. She was still treating me like the emergency fund she was entitled to. After everything, after the Reddit posts, the public fallout, the fraud investigation, she came back and helped herself one last time. I called the police. I gave them every piece of information. The account number. The login logs. The IP address the bank flagged. It felt cold. But I didn't hesitate. For the first time in my life, I wasn't second-guessing my own right to protect myself. The officer thanked me and said someone would follow up. It wasn't a huge amount of money, but the intent, the pattern, was enough. She thought she could sneak back in. But the locks were changed. Literally and metaphorically. It didn't take long for the police to follow up. 2 detectives came by my apartment 3 days later. They were polite, direct, and surprisingly well-informed. They'd already traced the IP address used in the attempted transfer, logged at my parents' address. They had proof that the email associated with the account had been changed through a device tied to Lindsay's phone number. It was airtight. "We just need you to confirm you want to press charges," one of them said. I hesitated. It wasn't because I felt bad. It was because I realized what that decision meant. No more second chances. No more "maybe she'll grow up someday." I nodded. "Yeah. I want to move forward." They thanked me and left. An hour later, I got a text from Uncle Tom. "She knows." Apparently, the officers had visited the house to question her. She didn't deny it. She said she didn't think it would matter. Claimed she was just moving some money around to help cover their debts. They told her that wasn't her call to make. She left again, but not before trying to throw one last match on the gasoline. That night, I got a knock at my door. It was Lindsay. She looked thinner, more tired, like someone who'd been playing house with chaos for too long. She didn't ask to come in. Just stood there on the steps, arms crossed. "You really called the cops on me?" she said. "You tried to steal from me." "It wasn't stealing, it was a loan." "You didn't ask. You logged into my account. You changed my info. That's fraud." Her jaw clenched. "You don't get it. I was trying to fix things. You don't fix things by making them worse for someone else." She looked at the ground, then back up. "I've always been the screw-up," she said. "So I figured screw it. If that's what everyone expects, I might as well lean in." I didn't say anything. I didn't owe her a therapy session. She shifted her weight. "They're going to lose the house." "I know. They'll end up homeless. That was their choice. They signed the papers. They trusted you." She blinked, and for a second, I saw a crack in the persona. Just for a second. Then it vanished. "You've changed," she said. "Yeah. I have." And I shut the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't scream. I just closed it gently and locked it behind her. Because some people don't deserve an open door. 2 weeks after Lindsay showed up at my door, I got the court notice. Misdemeanor fraud, unauthorized access of a financial account, and attempted theft. Nothing major enough to lock her away for years, but enough to go on her record and force her into accountability, maybe for the first time in her life. She pled? No contest. Her public defender pushed for a diversion program and community service instead of jail time. The judge agreed, but added mandatory financial counseling and restitution. She had to pay me back the attempted transfer amount, plus court fees. My phone buzzed the night after the hearing. It was my mom. I didn't pick up. Then a message followed. Mom, she's going through so much. This will ruin her life. I stared at it. What about mine? What about the years I spent patching up their problems with my paycheck? What about the nights I cried in silence while they praised her for surviving another broken relationship or half-baked startup? This wasn't just about money. It was about being treated like an ATM with a heartbeat. Still, I didn't answer. I just archived the message and turned my phone off. That weekend, I got a check in the mail. $3,000. A bank-issued money order with no note, no signature. Just the bare minimum. But it was the first time she'd ever paid for something that wasn't hers to begin with. I didn't celebrate. I didn't cash it right away. I stared at it for a while, then slid it into a drawer. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about what it meant. A closed loop. I saw Uncle Tom a few days later. We met for coffee. He asked how I was doing, and I told him the truth. I'm okay. Not amazing. Not fixed. But okay. For the first time in years, I was allowed to exist without constantly being pulled back into chaos. He smiled and said something I'll never forget. You walked out of the burning building. You didn't stay to argue with the people still playing with matches. I nodded. Took a deep breath. And in that moment, something shifted again. Not closure. Not completely. But peace. After the court hearing and the check, things went strangely quiet. No more calls from Mom. No surprise visits. No cryptic social media jabs from Lindsay. It felt like being in the eye of a storm, calm, but not peaceful. Just still. For a while, I didn't know what to do with that stillness. Then I got an email from Kevin, the guy who ran the financial literacy nonprofit. We'd exchanged messages after he saw my budgeting videos online. Hey man, just wanted to check in. We're hosting an in-person workshop at a community center next weekend. Would love for you to come by, just observe if you're not ready to lead anything yet. I almost said no. I still didn't feel like I belonged in any kind of mentoring role. But something about it tugged at me. So I went. It was held in the back of an old library. Folding chairs, free coffee, young adults with notebooks and questions. Nobody knew my backstory. No one looked at me like I owed them something. That workshop turned into 2, then 4. Before I knew it, I was helping people build their first budgets. Explaining what compound interest really means. Showing them how to set up accounts no one else could access. That part hit home. During one session, a high school senior stayed behind to ask me if it was okay to say no to family when they ask for money. His words weren't hypothetical. I recognized the tone immediately. I told him the truth. Yes. Not only is it okay, it might save your life. He didn't cry. But he looked like someone who'd been holding his breath for a long time and had finally exhaled. That night, I emailed Kevin and told him I wanted to keep helping. Regularly. Even volunteer outside of sessions. It felt good. Real. Around that time, something else happened. A friend I hadn't seen in almost 6 years reached out, Emily. We drifted apart after college, mostly due to life and timing. But she'd seen one of the workshop videos shared on LinkedIn and messaged me. I always knew you'd do something that helped people, she wrote. Coffee sometime? We met up that weekend. It wasn't a rom-com reunion. No sparks flying or dramatic rain-soaked confessions. It was better. Comfortable. Real. Like finding a photograph you forgot you loved. We talked for hours. She asked about my family, and I told her what I was comfortable sharing. She didn't pity me. She didn't tell me to. Just move on. She just listened. And when I told her I was finally feeling okay, she smiled and said, "It shows." 3 months after the court hearing, I got another letter. Same envelope. Same handwriting. It was from my dad. I almost threw it away without reading. But curiosity got the better of me. The letter was short, barely a page. He didn't apologize. He didn't say he was proud of me. He didn't talk about Lindsay. He just wrote, "We're losing the house. It's final. They gave us 30 days. If you want anything from your childhood, you should come get it." That was it. No. Hope you're well. No. We're sorry for what happened. Just an eviction notice dressed up as a personal update. I didn't go. I didn't need anything from that house. Not the old books in the attic. Not the childhood photos. Not the trophies from high school they never came to see me win. They weren't keepsakes. They were anchors. Still, it felt like an ending I couldn't ignore. I drove by the house one last time. Didn't stop. Just circled the block. The lawn was dead. A moving truck was in the driveway. 2 strangers stood out front, one holding a clipboard, the other pointing at the gutters. I watched from the corner. No one saw me. Later that week, Uncle Tom called. He said my parents were moving in with a distant cousin across the state. Someone who didn't know the full story, or maybe just didn't care. It wasn't my problem anymore. "You okay?" Tom asked. "Yeah," I said. "I actually am." The same day, Emily and I had dinner again. We weren't dating exactly. Just reconnecting. She asked if I was going to reach out to them before they left. "No," I said. "They already left. A long time ago." And it was true. Lindsay had fled into her own delusions. My parents had chosen comfort over accountability. They all left me behind years ago. I just finally caught up to the fact. That night, I finally cashed the restitution check. Not because I needed the money. Because it was mine. Because I earned peace. Because this time, I wasn't letting anyone else write my ending. It's been almost a year since I stopped helping my parents. A year since I found out they left everything to Lindsay. Since the texts about unpaid mortgages. Since the Reddit post. Since the police report. Since I said, "Enough." I thought walking away from my family would ruin me. Turns out, it saved my life. I sleep now. Through the night. No guilt eating at 1 a.m. No waking up in panic because I forgot to pay someone else's overdue utility bill. I have money in my savings account, for me. Not for surprise dental surgeries or sudden emergencies that always seem to line up with Lindsay's newest designer bag. My health's not perfect, but it's manageable. My physical therapy is working. I can walk longer distances. I take breaks when I need to. And I don't apologize for it anymore. I still get the occasional text from extended family members. Some supportive. Some not. One cousin even said, "I just don't get how you can turn your back on your own blood." But here's what I've realized. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when it counts, and who only calls when the Wi-Fi gets shut off. Uncle Tom is family. Emily is becoming family. Even some of the people from that community center, the ones who thanked me for teaching them how to build a budget, those people felt more like family than the ones who shared my last name. I used to think being the responsible one meant I had to endure everything quietly. That being the strong one meant I didn't get to have boundaries. That's a lie. Being strong is walking away from the people who only value you when you're useful. Being strong is choosing peace, even when it means losing the approval you've been chasing your whole life. To anyone out there reading this, who's stuck in a role you didn't choose, who's being drained by people who only remember your name when they need something. You're not selfish for saying no. You're not heartless for putting yourself first. And you're not alone. The moment I stopped letting them use me was the moment I finally found myself. And I'm not going back.